Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Kevin Moore Show. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, just click that subscribe button below, as it really helps to support the show. If you're new to the show, I interview guests from a spiritual perspective, covering mainstream and alternative subjects, real-life inspirational stories, and much more. Now, on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Joni Patry. Now, she is a native Texan, born and raised in Dallas, and first became interested in astrology at the age of 10. She's a natural artist, and she graduated from the University of Texas in Austin with a degree in psychology. Now, whilst earning her degree in Austin, she also pursued her passion of astrology. She started studying astrology at just 19 and became a professional astrologer just 4 years later. Joni is now one of the most recognized Vedic astrologers in the world, and she has published many books and appeared on national and international television shows, and she runs a successful online Vedic astrology university. Joni Patry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Joni, it's just fantastic to have you on. I've really looked forward to doing this interview with you because I know that you're very busy. You're doing a lot of content right now online, and I'm just privileged to have you on. So let's just get straight into your story. And I think to begin with, let's just go back a little bit here. Let's go back to the early 60s, as I believe it was around that time when you had your first experience of just how powerful astrology is and, what it can do.
Absolutely. You've watched me. I can tell now. Because what happened was President Kennedy was going to come to Dallas, and I was watching the TV. I was very young, but I was around. And at that time, a woman came on TV and begged Kennedy not to come to Dallas. She actually said he would be assassinated. And as a little girl, I was like, why would this woman be on TV? And of course, the very next day, the whole story goes, being in Dallas, my mother took my sisters out of school to go meet Kennedy at the airport. And she was one of the first in line to shake his hand. It's even in the old History Channel, black and white videos. I saw it years after I was watching the History Channel, and they showed him walk down the stairway, walked right up to my mother and sisters. And of course, my sister jumped up and down. It was so cute. But 30 minutes later, he was dead. And I always wondered, how did that woman know about this? And of course, this woman, you probably recognize the name, was Jean Dixon. And she was an astrologer psychic. And my mother always had the astrology books around the house, though, and we were the same sun sign. So I started reading, as a teenager, and I seriously got into astrology from that point on because of that incident.
Absolutely, you did, and you still live in Texas now, and
I do. I still live in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, for me, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that must have been difficult, because doing the work that you do, even till today, it's still, very much a Bible Belt kind of state, isn't it?
Oh my God, you can say that again. In the 80s, because I've been doing charts professionally since really the 70s. And in the 80s, you don't know how many Bibles were put in my face when I told them I was an astrologer. And, at that point in time, I was actually kind of afraid to tell people I was an astrologer. But now to this point, I stuck with it. Everyone's opening up to the reality that everything is cyclic. And it's not some big, crazy, weird thing. Astrology is mathematical, and it deals with cycles. And if you can go back and see certain cycles, you can see what happened before, therefore predict the future. It's just an amazing science.
Oh yeah, absolutely it is. And it's probably, like some people have said to you before, it's like one of the original science, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, yes, you deal with Vedic astrology, and just very quickly, the difference for people who may not understand it. What's the difference between Vedic astrology and Western astrology? And also, really, I should ask you if you could sum it up. What is astrology?
Yes, absolutely. Well, astrology is how the planets are affecting us. You see, we're all part of this universe, and everything is affecting everything. Now, some people think astrology is based on like the moon, such as gravity. It is not. It's something way beyond what we can comprehend at this point in time. And the tools that, of course, we're using to measure are probably archaic compared to what these energies and vibrations are about. But as the planets align in certain positions to one another, they really do depict what's going on here on Earth. And when you learn to understand this, you see before things happen, the things that are going to happen. And then you're a true believer, because to be able to predict the future really does help us better prepare and possibly even avert things. That's why you want to know your chart, because I believe we have free will and we can change things. So nothing's set in stone. But when you watch these cycles of the planets, from the big picture to your own personal life, you really do start to understand the workings of the divine in the universe. So I call astrology the divine science, because it is all in the works of this divine force and how everything is interconnected. It's just so cool to watch. So as I always say, as above, so below. As you can see, the outer reflection of what's going on in the planets, it affects the masses, but individually. And we can have an effect on the masses by seeing what it's causing within us, changing ourselves so that it can have a better effect, ripple effect on the world and the mass consciousness. So you wanted to know the difference between the two astrologies that I do. Well, astrology is all about the planets and vibrations, energy, but Vedic astrology is more ancient. Western astrology, now there is argument about that with Babylonia and all of the Hellenistic astrologers, but Western astrology is more based on the cycles of the sun. So therefore it's seasonal. So every year we have the spring equinox and the fall equinox and the summer and winter solstices. And the sun is always in the same position. So when you talk about sun sign astrology and Western astrology, it's based on this. But Vedic astrology is based on the stars. And what's happening with the stars is they are moving. So therefore, when you take the groupings of stars and you see that they move, but at a very, very slow rate, the point of reference for the zodiac that I use right now has shifted back almost a full sign away from where the Western tropical astrologers use. So that's why when you go to Vedic astrology, or really Vedic astrology is sidereal. And sidereal means star. So it's based on the stars and their movements. Western astrology does not take into account the movement of the stars. This does. It's actually called precession of the equinoxes. And you know, when you talk about we're moving into the age of Aquarius, this is based on the fact that these star groupings are moving very, very slow. They actually take 26,000 years to go through all 12 signs. But our signs have changed. And the thing that really got me into Vedic, well, really, there was a lot of things. I can tell you some of them, but one is my interest in Eastern philosophy. But the other is these placements are true astronomically. If you were to ask an astronomer where the sun is in relationship to the stars, you would get a different placement than the tropical Western astrologers use. So this is scientifically more mathematical and precise. And I found that ever since I shifted from Western tropical astrology to Vedic sidereal astrology, my predictions became so precise, because The stars, well, in Vedic astrology, we look at the stars, right? So they actually are based on these groupings called nakshatras. And the whole Indian system is based on these nakshatras, which if you take the entire zodiac and you divide it up into small portions of 13 degrees, 20 minutes, you'll get 27 nakshatras. Now, this is all relative to the Indian lunar calendar too. And you have to admit, so many cycles are based on the moon, especially even the woman's cycle. So this is what Vedic astrology is based on, the stars. And the stars go deeper. When I look at a Vedic chart, I can see someone's soul. I can even see things from a past lifetime. Western astrology never hit that mark for me. And as a matter of fact, when you look at a Western chart of identical twins born minutes apart, what makes their life so different? In Vedic astrology, there's an answer. They have all of these divisional charts, which are very mathematically based. But if you're born a half a minute later or earlier, whatever, you're going to find that this can depict a whole different life. So I don't know if I just made sense to you.
You did, absolutely you did. And thank you for that answer. And you've said this before, that, you know, when you know thyself, and you, by using Vedic astrology, for example, you know, you can know why you're here, you know, what's your place in the universe. And also, do you need, or do you have clients that come, you know, like once a year, or if they've got a new business proposition, or what is a life reading? Is there like a life reading kind of thing, or can you sort of come into a Vedic astrology to sort of ask some bigger questions?
Yes, anything in the world really comes under astrology, where you can ask a question about any aspect of your life and, you know, tell past, present, and future. That's what's so wonderful.
You do predictions as well. You've got a newsletter. How can people get your newsletter?
My newsletter, you can sign up for it on my website, which is galacticcenter.org, O-R-G. And every month I put out all of my predictions monthly, you know, what planetary patterns are causing it. And, you know, and most of all, what can we do month to month if we do know that these are the trends of where our life or our country or world is going? What can we do about it? And always the planets give us a deeper spiritual reference. And if I have to say this, the main reason I got into Vedic astrology is because it is so much more spiritual. And I believe, and I know you do too, Kevin, that that's why we're here. We're here to grow spiritually. And if we can get a better idea of what our purpose and what we're here to learn and how we can change our lives to grow spiritually, that's the whole purpose of everything.
I mean, did you ever see yourself doing the work that you're doing now, in the position that you're in now?
I really did. I really did. Believe it or not, ever since I was that little girl, I always wanted to be an astrologer. Now, who does that? Who does that back in that day? But it was, you know, in the late 60s and early 70s. I just thought, this is our divine connection. This is how we can get answers that we feel lost with. And it certainly has provided me with the answers that I have needed throughout my life.
Yeah, so you've used it regularly in your life as well. And I suppose your family's got access to that source as well. How has, I mean, obviously your husband's very open and very in alignment with what you do, I guess, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Has to be.
Yeah. Well, no, some couples get together, don't they, sometimes? And there is, well, maybe they're opposite kind of interest. You know what I mean? I don't know if I find that now. I don't know. I think you've got, for me right now, I think it's nice to have the interest together. But that's just me.
I agree. But here's the thing. I think if you're too much alike, opposites are what really do attract, not being the same. It's almost like being brother and sister. That's not going to be the relationship that people are looking for. Let me put it that way. Opposites definitely attract, but you have to have respect and you have to support each other. And of course, the bottom line to everything is love. But I'm not talking about conditional love. I'm talking about unconditional love. And one of my beliefs is family's everything. When you boil it down to the connection of feeling loved, that's going to give you the support that you need to make it in this world.
Yes, family is very important, and I think that it's also the place that we sort of accelerate the sort of the quickest, don't we, on this journey of being on planet Earth sometimes, and the trials and tribulations that we can go through, right? So,
Right.
how can we do
True.
that without a relationship of some sort, whether it's family, friends, or whatever that may be as well? And so yes, so with astrology and with Vedic astrology, timelines are revealed. Can you get to see in a person's chart sort of potentials of where they may go in the future?
Absolutely. And I have to say, that's why all my clients call me for readings. They need to know what to expect in the future. And so I've become very much a predictive astrologer to help people better understand how they can navigate their lives to better assess what the good points and the strong points are indicating in their chart. And of course, another time is when to back down and lay low, because there's you got to know how to navigate your life and your chart. I just call it a roadmap, you know? That's exactly what it is. And if you could see where you're headed, you can navigate a lot better.
So there are those potentials in the chart to see points in the chart where there are options maybe, or there's something that's going to happen that's destined to happen maybe in some form. But do you feel that, after all the years of doing this, that people still have the free will to navigate that if they recognize it?
Yes, I do. Here's the situation. For most people, I believe that free will is probably we probably have about 25% free will. A lot of it is destined. We made these plans before we incarnated here so that we could learn and grow. And some things need to happen, but we don't know certain events, what is predestined and where we have the free will. So we have to treat everything as free will because that's the only way that we can navigate our life that clearly and the best. So, you can say some things just look like they were meant to happen and they're not easy. But I always say this, a lot of people will ask, not very many, but, how long do I have to live? And I won't answer that because I think the ancient astrologers, they could see more clearly when someone's demise or death could come. But that was before we had the advent of modern medicine. Think about how many people today wouldn't be here if it weren't for open heart surgery or chemotherapy. So you can see these points in a chart where someone can come to a crossroads, but then they have the choice whether to get well or not get well. And sometimes it's subconscious, that, what people really want, whether it's time for them to go or stay. But I really think that we have free will and that our death is not always predestined.
Interesting, yeah, because some people that are mediums that I've interviewed that are psychic detectives, for example, they will say that most times when they've done this work, and some have done hundreds of cases, right? That one of the biggest lessons they've learned is that as hard as it is to accept that soul, this was the right time for transition. It wasn't a mistake.
Right. There's choice. I definitely believe there's choice. As a matter of fact, many years ago, I saw in my mother's chart that a time period where I thought she would die. And believe it or not, she had a massive stroke that day, and the doctor said she would not make it through the night. Well, she lived 10 years longer after that. She actually recovered. And that's where I really started looking deeper into free will, because she really wanted to be here and she achieved that. But there was that time where she had a choice.
Right, that's important. Yeah, absolutely. And just want to mention, well, I'll say briefly, but it's important as well, is you've sort of transitioned more from, giving readings. I know you do, you're booked up, I think you said at the beginning of this interview off air, till September, personally?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, and that's been going on for a long while right now. And that's why you sort of transitioned into teaching others how to do this for themselves and others as well. So just tell us a bit about the university online that you set up, what people would experience when they go through the courses, just very briefly, and that if they do really want a reading with you, that sometimes that you may give it to one of your students who has trained under you for a number of years.
Absolutely, yes, because I felt like learning this science and developing, a lot of my work I have come to learn through experience. It's not just reading something, memorizing something, or doing the classes. I've been doing astrology for 40 years, and I have experienced so many things that I've written about. I've written 10 books on astrology. So I've written a lot about what I've discovered through my work, but then I decided, I really need to give back. I need for this to live on beyond me. So I started my university, and probably my best passion in the world is teaching. I love teaching. So I started this university. It's all online. It's all self-paced, but we have live classes every week. We became really a community of everyone that's working together. We even have research teams with the university where we go back in history and see what happened with certain aspects. Therefore, we're putting together all of this research, astrological research for the future. But the way the university works, and I always say this, the university is probably the thing I'm most proud of that I have put together, except for raising my 3 sons, because that's where I'm the most proud. But I'm really proud that I'm able to bring together, there's 6 semesters in the university. Each semester you have pre-recorded 8 videos, 8 tests, but additionally, on top of that, we have meetings, live webinar meetings where we talk about the information. Plus, I assign graduates to be tutors to grade all the people's tests. So it's a big community, and you're always talking with other people. It's not like you're out there on cyberspace alone, because to learn something this complicated, you need the support of other people, and you need the inspiration, constant inspiration. But the last semester, you work with me individually, because if you've made it and you have learned all of the tools that I teach in the university, you're ready to start doing readings. And I will give you certain charts, and I'll ask you, now this person got married within this 10-year period. Tell me when. This person came into a new job and career opportunity. Tell me when and what their job should be. So I have like 8 different events. This person came into money. When? Tell me how. So these are real examples. And by the time they reach the 6th semester, they will be able to make these predictions themselves. So as they graduate, they can become tutors. Plus, they can also have their own classes on the university website, which is universityofvedicastrology.com. But beyond all of that, it is a beautiful community. And it's all about what I teach in Vedic astrology. And I have to say, I think it's growing by leaps and bounds. People are all starting to want to learn this divine science. And this is the easiest and the best way. I have students in every country of the world right now. And we're even talking about translating it into different languages. But as it stands, most people speak English these days. It's kind of amazing. Some of my students, I didn't know in Singapore that English was the main language.
That's right.
Did you know that?
Yes, Malaysia, Singapore. Yeah. That's right. Yep. Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? The connectivity that we've entered into, especially in this time when lockdowns and pandemics and everything, which we'll get into very briefly as well.
Yes.
And I just want to recommend your YouTube channel as well. I will link your YouTube channel in the description below. So when I say in the description, it's below this video. There's a drop-down box, and your links for everything that you've spoken about, including books, will be in there. Your books are coming up on the screen as well. Do you know the name of your YouTube channel, just in case this is being listened to on a podcast? Just your name, yeah?
It's Joni Patry.
Okay, Joni. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful.
And there was one video I did recently, Kevin, that I thought needed to be done. And I put together all the predictions I got right within the last couple of years. And it's like, do you really believe in astrology? Well, after watching that, I think you'll be convinced.
Yeah, right. Well, and I want to use the word discernment just to bring that in the conversation because I think that's important as well. And how do people discern when it comes to this? Because, throughout life, in any field, right, there's discernment in anything. If you're going to hire a bloody builder, do you know what I mean? You want to check them out a little bit, don't you? Just to make sure they're not going to run away with your money, right? It's like anything.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's so many cults out there and people that will take advantage of others. So yes, I definitely agree with you with that. There's so many people out there. And I used to find that somebody would take like a few classes with me and all of a sudden they've got their shingle out that they're an astrologer. And I'm like, no, this is not okay. People need to really, or they read a few books in astrology and somehow they're an astrologer. This is not okay. That's why the whole university is called a certification, because you have to go through all of these classes and pass them. And the last exam is to do a real reading with me there, to make sure that you know what you're doing before you graduate, because that's when I feel okay to recommend my students to get a reading with, because some people can't wait till September for a reading. And in that case, I do want my students who have followed all my tools and techniques to be able to give readings and for other people to have that opportunity with them.
I think when I use that word discernment, I think it's more important with what you're saying there, actually. How much time served are you? I think that equals discernment. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, if you've been doing it for a while and you're still doing it, there's a reason you're still doing it, because people are getting a good benefit from the work that you're doing. But it's difficult for those starting out. But like you say, if you've done a course like they've done with yourself, and then at least they've seen it through to a level that you're happy with, and that you're sort of saying is a good acceptable level for people. But you're right. You see it all the time, don't you? With people just trying to rush it. I do with other things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're right. Yeah. They do try to rush it, and you can't, not something like this.
Now, when it comes to, as well, since we just stick on this discernment just for a minute, when it comes to some videos that you've done when people may watch and then may think, well, actually, did it turn out like that? Or have we, is it still to come? Or did it happen in a way that we didn't see? Or it wasn't so obvious?
That's a definite way to see it. I see many of my predictions like that we think, okay, this is what it meant, but it really meant something else, because the planets in their meanings, they have a positive meaning and a negative meaning. What meaning are they going to take on? And that's where I think we have the power to decide, what are we going to take, the positive route or the negative route with certain planetary energy. Yes, we have a choice.
Well, we've gone through amazing transition just in this past year. Do you know what I mean? Even to this point right now. And, would you still say that there is a shift? There's something in the energy still right now. It's not left, has it?
No, absolutely not. And if you've been following me for a while, you will know that I predicted the coronavirus exactly around the time that it hit heavy, because I always talk about, and for those that haven't heard me before, I talk about, with Vedic astrology being relative to the stars, there's certain star portions where these points of change, I'll just call them points of change. They're actually called Rahu and Ketu in Vedic astrology, but they are the nodes of the moon. These are reference points astronomically, but it takes 18 and a half years for these points in space to come back to the same position that they were at one time. So their cycle is 18 and a half years. So I noticed that there was a position that every time they went in, and actually it's relative to these nakshatras I mentioned before, when these points in space, Rahu and Ketu, they're actually points in space, the nodes of the moon, that cause eclipses. And I always say eclipses are the best tool an astrologer has for prediction. So again, wherever Rahu and Ketu are where the eclipses are happening. So every 18 and a half years, they fall in this portion of the zodiac in Gemini and Sagittarius. And actually the nakshatras, Rahu's in Ardra and Ketu is in Mula. Every 18 and a half years that it went to this point, something catastrophic always happened. And it was this a year ago in February, March, where they went back to the position that 18 and a half years prior to that was September 11th. 18 and a half years prior to that was the AIDS virus, 1982. 18 and a half years prior to that was 1963, President Kennedy's assassination. 18 and a half years prior to that was the bombing of Hiroshima. And even going back so many years, I went back to 1889. And in 1889, there was the same thing, but there was actually this conjunction with Jupiter as well, Ketu with Jupiter. It was the most similar to the one we just had. There was actually a pandemic that year, and so many things happened, and especially so many things happened that were on a spiritual line. It was the time of the spiritualist movement, Madame Blavatsky and Thoreau and Emerson, plus there was so much going on. Even the Unity Church was formed in 1889. So I think what's here to come of all of this will be a spiritual revolution. And for this year, 2021, it's very quiet right now. But this will be probably, not to put more fear into anyone, but this is going to be a bigger revolutionary year than 2020. There is so much that's about to happen this year. And I believe it's towards the end of this month and into April, we're going to see major events happening. Rahu actually coming together with Mars. It's going to be explosive. And that happens around, the 26th, I believe, of this month. We're right now in March. And then the first few weeks of April. And let me just say, there's going to be a huge awakening between May in July. And yes, it's going to be catastrophic. There's going to be a lot of war and fighting. That's what I see for this year, more warlike behavior and fighting. And I think so many people around the world, not just in the US, they feel like they haven't been heard. And they feel like the truth is always repressed from them these days, especially with the media. These undercurrents cannot stay quiet. They're going to explode. And this is the year that the truth and reality, people are going to wake up, even to the whole coronavirus thing, why this all had to happen. It's all happening for a divine reason, but something is going to come out of this. We have to ask ourselves, what did we learn from this? What is the purpose in our own individual lives? And for me, it's made my life better. I know a lot of people can't say that, but it's given me the opportunity to go within. I actually wrote 3 books since the lockdown.
Incredible. Congratulations. Wow. Yep.
Thank you. I usually travel extensively around the world to teach. And so during this lockdown, I had to readjust, do something in a different way. And it's been beautiful. I mean, I've gotten more in touch with understanding myself, and through writing and astrology, I've taken it to a deeper level, and definitely taken the university to another level.
A soul, when it chooses to come here, or groups of soul, do you think we choose the time? Do you think the timing is important as well? Do you think there's something in the time that we're born that it was predestined? Maybe we chose to come in around that time for a reason.
Absolutely. Everything. That's why I call this the divine order of the universe. I mean, how is everything that precise? But you have to know it is. Everything is that precise. And think about all the lives and the people that you're here with and you meant to come together with and their times. It's all in this divine working. It's perfect.
It's incredible. And just to finish off what you were saying about some of the events, up and coming events, or energy that's moving right now. Even if we get into 2023, I've got that feeling that 2023 is another change, and even leading. Let's just go 10 years in the future, maybe from there. Like 2032. It's there's if we could travel in time right now, I bet you, I might be wrong, but see what you feel about this, that if we could travel, that it may not look the same place. Not that there's been a war that's ravished everything, but something big has changed.
Absolutely. This is like we're waking up. This is like what we're here to do. We're here to wake up. We're here to really know our purpose, our divine purpose, why we've come here. And personally, if you really want to talk about that, that's really about our spiritual growth. And if we can all remember who we really are, and really Vedic astrology, the Eastern philosophy that I so believe in, has taught me that the most important thing is to realize that it's within our hearts. And within our hearts is where unconditional love is. That's where the divine, if you want to call it God or God consciousness or the power that's all that is, that's where we all have that spark and we're all connected. Astrology has truly taught me this divinity. And, I tell people, how does this solar system, how does this connect to us? And I'll tell you, it's very simple. You've heard of the chakras, the 7 energy centers we have, correct? Realize that these chakras are connected to our planetary solar system. In other words, the root chakra, which deals with the fear or, just this instincts and things of that nature, that's Saturn. It's the planet that's furthest out in our solar system that's visible by the naked eye. Then the next chakra is Jupiter. That, in other words, we're going from the slowest to the fastest. The next chakra is Mars, the solar plexus. No, it's not the sun, it's Mars. Then the heart energy is Venus, and Venus deals with love. When you come to the throat chakra, it's Mercury. It's about our communications. And then the third eye, it deals with the sun, and the moon is our crown chakra. So it's from the slowest planet. And what's so interesting about that, when you see a planet that is not placed well in an individual's chart, that means that chakra center is imbalanced, and that's what needs to be worked on. So you can see we actually have our own little individual solar system, and you can see it in your chart. So that's how I believe our solar system connects us to our planets. And then what's beyond is the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Those are the planets that deal with the collective unconscious and actually deal with our subconscious mind. They deal with the big picture. And that was what I was coerced to write about during this lockdown, those 3 outer planets, and how they connect us to what is beyond our solar system in space, in time. And the reality of that there is no such thing as time. And the reality of why we're here, karma, and the workings of the divine. This is heavy stuff. I mean, it's stuff that really our mundane physical brains cannot conceive. But you do get these glimpses and these sensations and knowingness in our meditations, in our quiet times, when we do connect to the divine. And I believe that does come from the heart energy. In every religion, you'll see, I was raised Catholic, and you would see in the holy cards, all these rays of light coming out from the heart. What does that mean? That means that's where the divinity of this oneness exist. And when we remember to connect with that, all of this makes sense and everything heals. And that's where we're going. We're here to heal this planet and heal each other. And that's why we're here. Your chart will give you more specific information about all of this.
Absolutely. And as you're saying that, all I'm thinking is, well, relationships, because I know that that's a big source for a lot of people, right? As you say as well, that, we're here to karmically make amends of past, if past lives are real, that there's things that we're trying to work out now that maybe we won't have to take into a future lifetime. But could it also be as well that some people that we meet, it's our first karmic connection with them, maybe still?
I think so, definitely. Some are old relationships, some are not. We're always meeting new people. And so, yes, to answer that, it could be a past life or not a past life. I think the past life people, though, we just feel this immediate connection with, this remembrance of the past.
I was this is someone's quote to me, and I did quite like it. They said to me that there are no mistakes, just experiences, and I can actually go there. I think that's true. That if we get ourselves off course from our astrology chart, say we've done something that we've chosen something that wasn't in alignment, gone off course, it still gets us back there in the end. We may have to take a bit of a longer road to get there, but you're still going to get to, if there's something that's really calling you at the end of your life or at some point in your life to do you feel that you still are drawn to see that through and get to that point to make a choice?
Well, I definitely feel like we're all destined to get to that desired point. We all take different paths to get there, but that desired point is to be one with the divine, and that's when we evolve to a higher awareness, consciousness, vibration. Some people talk about this in terms of ascension, but that is
it still goes back to that for you. Yes, it still goes back to that. Yeah. And could that be
get there?
Right. But that could be in your work as well, because you would say that you are one with the divine with the work that you're doing. You're now in purpose. You're loving what you do. Some people are still saying, I don't know what it is I'm supposed to do. Or,
I get that all the time. People will put in their little synopsis about what they want to know about. They say, I want to know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know where to go or what to do with my life. And some of them are, up there in age. It's like they still don't know what their path is or what they're supposed to be doing. I think it's very easy to tell in a chart what they're supposed to be doing. And, Kevin, you gave me your birth data and I pulled up your chart. What you're supposed to be doing is communications. You're the best. You are here to open up and teach people what the world has to offer. You are the best communicator. You have so many opportunities in the future too, to teach and to educate, to bring the truth out to so many people through the work you're doing. And this is actually what you're doing with me today. You're educating the world about what's out there, the new possibilities. You're all about learning, teaching, traveling, information. You are a high source. And this should feel so purposeful that you're on track doing the work that you came here to do, because that's exactly how I see you.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
But you found your calling. You're there.
Yeah. There are times where I'm going to start doing more interviews at some point. I've said this before, with people that are serving very long sentences in prison. I want their stories to show others, what have they learned in their journey so far? Have they forgiven themselves? Have they forgiven the victim that what they did? What would they? Can they go to the point where there might be something more than their body? What's this solitude? What's that confinement taught them? Do you know what I mean? But is that in alignment with my work? Maybe, but I hear what you're saying, and when one has to follow that path, it can be. There's always something that's dangling a carrot somewhere. You also know as well that sometimes you have to sit back and think, actually, is what I'm trying to do here putting me off what I should be doing? It's all very difficult sometimes when you're self-reflecting, and sometimes, I'll not keep going, but sometimes there's a point where you say to yourself, am I actually enjoying this?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we all need a challenge. When it gets to be where it's not challenging anymore and it's redundant, that's where we ask that question. Are we enjoying this? So you got to just shift it to some different avenue where you will be enjoying it, because really your whole process, your whole life is here to teach, to educate, to inspire, and to help others grow. There's nothing more rewarding, in my opinion, than to empower other people, because when you realize that it's not about us, but when you empower others, that's where you feel the most satisfaction and you feel the most joy. And that's one of the joys of having children. It's not about you anymore, it's about your children. So you give back in some way to support and empower other people. And when you see them empowered and you see the light bulb goes off in the student's head, then that's the feeling of purpose that comes alive in all of us. So it's not about gaining power and being in control. It's about empowering others. And that's where we feel the sense that we're on track and we're doing the right thing. And it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Okay. And I guess we don't exactly know how that manifests or what it looks like. And we're not supposed to, right? Because, it's the journey, just with the free will to create as well. Okay, well, then if you want to share any of my stuff, you can put that on screen. That is absolutely fine. Just how you would, read a chart or just some of the things that stick out. No problem with doing that whatsoever.
Here we go. This is your chart. So let me make sure I have everything correct here before I begin. So, Kevin, I have you born July 22nd, 1978 at 4 a.m. around London, right? Okay, so from this, wow, you're born on the 22nd of the month. That's a master number. You know that. So looking at your ascendant, the ascendant sign is what sets up the whole chart, and it's based on your birth time. You have a Gemini ascendant right here. Here's the symbol for Gemini and ASC. It marks the first house. This is who you are. And with Gemini as your ascendant, you have Jupiter on the ascendant. And that means you're fortunate, you're lucky, you're protected, even though there will be many highs and lows within your life. But there is a great level of protection that runs in your life. Now, see over here in Vedic astrology, we have these nakshatras. This is an abbreviation for a nakshatra. Your ascendant and your Jupiter sit in the nakshatra called Purnavasu, which means return of the light. And that is probably the cleanest nakshatra. It means someone that's pure and has purpose and meaning in their life. But you will go through some major highs, but some major lows. But you always bounce back, because that nakshatra means return of the light. So I can't help but go to the stellium of planets. Stellium means 3 or more planets together. In Leo, you are a leader with all 4 planets here in Leo. And one thing I see is your Saturn sits here at almost 6 degrees of Leo. That means it sits on the fixed star called Regulus. Regulus is the heart of the lion. You are a leader in all that you do, especially in teaching and truth, because Saturn rules your 9th house of teaching and truth. And if you think about the 9th and the 3rd house, they deal with communications, education, and travel. You are a world traveler. You will travel to every place in the world before your life is up. I promise you that. Now, the 3rd house dealing with communications, video, cameras, especially it deals with writing, especially if you have Saturn and Mercury together, because Mercury is the communicator dealing with writing. Actually, the 3rd house rules the hands. So therefore, you're an author. If you haven't written a book, you will, more than one. That's a promise. And Saturn being with Mercury gives you the discipline and the focus to be able to write. So your Mars, Venus right here, they're intense. You're very passionate, and you have the power of attraction. In other words, charisma. That's that Mars-Venus conjunction. And in relationships, falling in love quickly and relationships that come about. But let me go a little further than that. Looking to your fourth house, where Rahu sits, sometimes people with Rahu in the fourth house, they may reside in a foreign country. Rahu can be foreign places. And at the same time, you probably butt heads with your mother. There was like some difficulty between you and your mother. But with K2 being in your 10th house, you will have a very unusual career, something not of the norm. And I have to say, with what you do right now, this is not a conservative job, right? But your moon being in the ninth house deals with the spiritual journey and the truth. And that's what you're all about. And whenever the planet that rules the second house, which deals with money, which deals with your voice, the moon rules the second house of money and voice. And when it goes to the ninth house of the truth, you never lie. You are always telling the truth. And sometimes that may be to your detriment, if you know what I mean. Being a little so honest that people can't handle it. But this is a beautiful placement to have the moon in the ninth. But it is in the nakshatra called Dhanishta. This is this DHA. And unfortunately, that's one of the worst nakshatras for marriage. So you're going to find that there is a lot for you to learn through relationship and marriage. And if I consider all 4 planets here in Leo go to the opposing house, from where the moon is, this can describe many of the ups and downs and bumps in the road in marriage, especially Mars being there. But I'll tell you what's coming up. Transiting Neptune over here is where all the planets are today as I pull them up. And if you'll notice, Neptune's 26 degrees Aquarius, means it's right up here and it's about to oppose your Mars right there. You have to be very careful of deception and deceit. And somebody that may, and this is mainly with business, you got to make sure that people are really have your best interest involved, because you could get deceived very easily. But another thing that Neptune rules, and especially Jupiter and Neptune, will be coming together towards a year from now, about April of 2022. They're going to come together and oppose your Mars, which means there's going to be major advancements with your work in your film. And maybe you're even doing a movie of some sort, but you are going to be out there big time. Mark my words, in about a year from now. Now over here, I pulled up all of the transiting planets as they affect your chart for the next 2 years. This is, see how precise this is. I can see exactly what days everything hits. And we don't have time to go over the next 2 years in great detail, but here's what I do want you to know. Jupiter is going to come up and hit your moon 3 times this year. Very auspicious. This is like major great events are about to occur each and every time Jupiter hits your moon. So let's go over this. The first go round will be April 27th. That's next month. The next one will be, let me see, Jupiter conjunct the moon will be right here. Wait, there's got to be one in between. There it is, August 14th. And then the last one will be December 17th. All of those are going to be major high points in your work and your career. And because your moon rules the second house of finances and money, I'm telling you, you're going to be making a lot more money during those periods of time. The opportunities are going to bring you success and wealth. That's something I can strongly predict. And as Jupiter comes up and hits your moon, it's going to start to aspect all these planets that I say are 7th from the moon. 7th house from the moon or the ascendant rules relationships. You are about to come into a beautiful relationship. And let me give you the exact date. Mark my words, this is going to happen. But it's a ways away. So you're coming into a prosperous, wonderful relationship by the time Jupiter aspects your Jupiter and your Mars. And my prediction is March 30th through April 5th of 2022, you will meet your life partner that you will marry, and you will be settling down in the best relationship I believe you've had. So I know you've come from a difficult point with Saturn being in your seventh house. Plus, remember I told you about those nakshatras that happen every 18 and a half years? Well, they were affecting your first house and your seventh house of marriage and relationships. And the fact that I believe you told me you got married, what? It was a year ago? A little less. Oh my gosh. That was that was not a good time to get married. Kevin, I could have told you with Rahu in K2 and all of the planets being in your seventh house, there would have been K2, Jupiter, and Saturn. Well, it was immediate. This was something that you just fell into quickly. But you see, another thing that I saw was Neptune was aspecting your Venus close to that time. That means you can't see things clearly. That is never the time to get married. But regardless, there was a beautiful, great lesson in that. And with that lesson, you'll never make the mistakes you did before. I promise you that. I'm seeing so many beautiful things happen because of the lesson of what you had to go through. But I want to say this, I do see another relationship coming, and I'm absolutely sure about it. So heal and realize what you came here to learn through that experience, so that the next experience will be the one that brings joy.
I just wish I could tell her that, I'm sorry for some things, and I just wish that, we could have ended it on love, and I think it's very difficult. Very difficult, yeah. But it's all part of the experience, and a lot more than that. I'm just saying, just things that are coming to my mind right now. But there's been a lot,
right.
yeah.
Well, that's you have really grown from that experience, and that's what life and difficulty brings us: growth as a human being, as a soul, as a spirit, and that's what it served its beautiful purpose. That's what you experienced. And you can see all these cycles that you went through before, but also what you can expect, because here's what I think is really important about astrology. The fact that when you see what you have learned, and when you see when things get difficult, those are the times of spiritual growth. And what I call that is an opportunity. So this whole experience that you just went through was a wonderful opportunity for growth. And that's what life gives us. And that's what life is all about, to see these opportunities for growth and move beyond them and expand and grow as a human being and in consciousness. And that's what I see just happened. You evolved.
Thank you for that. And just one thing that's just quickly come into my head as well is, what's one good bit of advice to give people about their reading as well?
Well, one of the things I think that is the best I can do for people in a reading is to give them hope and a vision of when things are going to be over. Because if you know there's light at the end of a dark tunnel, then you know when it's going to be over. You can withstand it and get there. Some people lose hope and they get very dark, depressed, and sometimes it could even eliminate something as horrible as suicide, because when you've only got like 3 more weeks of something really difficult and it'll be over with after then, it really gives people the support to get there. And that's what I think is very meaningful and very helpful. So you got that, where people just, if you know when it's going to be over with, you can do it. I just remembered, because right now it made me think that, you feel like you're in a difficult place, but if you knew exactly, which I gave you, when it's going to be over, then you can get there, because you're always looking at that light at the end of the tunnel, and then all of a sudden you're there.
I just want to say thank you so much for just sharing that. And that is a very condensed type of reading that you can get through. We've condensed that down to a few minutes.
As fast as I could.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So when they do, you can go into so much more detail than that, and you would get much more detail than that. But that is just, if you want to know roughly just, how some of that works. And it's incredible. I've got to say, I know you're right, but I don't want to. There's a few things I could say, but I can't say right now. But yes, I let me just say I agree with you. Let's just say that, right? Okay.
Yes,
and yeah, and I really appreciate what you've just done there as well. Like I say, and yeah, I guess then that people can really, change their lives by investing in themselves, in a sense of, looking, trying to, look into the deeper meanings of why they go through what they go through by looking at their Vedic astrology. It makes so much sense. It really does. It's a powerful tool.
Yes, it absolutely is. And I've always been into spirituality and growth my entire life. And this is the tool that I feel is the most beneficial and has helped me the most.
One of the things I just want to mention here as well is Mercury retrograde. Now, I hear it a lot. It always pops up on my Facebook feed, but it is definitely part of astrology, isn't it?
Oh, yes, of course. That's all in part of the cycle. So, all the planets go retrograde, though, not just Mercury. But Mercury goes retrograde the most. And since it rules communications and travel, that's what goes haywire. And, when you can't remember things, when you can't find things, when all your trips get canceled or delayed, all those come under the domain of what Mercury rules. But when Mars goes retrograde, that can be violence. That can be all sorts of things that Mars rules. So whatever that planet rules, when it goes retrograde, those are the issues globally and individually that we are here to work on and to heal.
Absolutely. And, I know you've done this as well. You've looked at some famous people's charts as well. And again, it's all there, isn't it? From Oprah Winfrey, John Lennon, Steve Jobs, it's all in their charts, isn't it?
All of it's there. It's amazing. Yeah. And it's really fun. It's really fun to see all that, it's so entertaining to understand these cycles.
Well, it's been so entertaining just to have you on the show. Don't get me, there's so much we can speak about, but we're at the end of the allotted time that we've got with you, and you've got a lot to. Well, it's Sunday, and I really appreciate you giving us your time on a Sunday as well. If I was just to ask you one last question, in the sense of what do you think right now is the most important message of your work?
The most important message of my work is to better understand our lives. And if we understand our lives and who we really are, then it would eliminate all fear, all anger, all negative emotion. And this would bring us to a point of where I think we're all meant to be. And that is in a place of happiness and joy. And that is what knowing the answers and the truth about the universe can bring you a sense of eliminating all of the negative emotions on this planet, which the base of all negative emotion is fear. And the planet is so consumed with fear right now that what I would really like to do is to heal that fear and help people realize who they really are and their power and how to empower others. And this would be a beautiful planet. And that's what we're here to evolve to and know.
And isn't that so important that you change yourself? The world around you reflects differently, doesn't it? And you affect those around you in just even the smallest ways sometimes as well. Absolutely. And your website, just for the podcast one final time, is?
galacticcenter.org. And my university website is universityofvedicastrology.com.
Excellent. Okay, well, they've been coming up on the screen throughout this interview. All links are in the description below. Joni, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. You're delightful. Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.